Hi, I'm Shay Oliver. Welcome to the Priority Paradigm. I'm sharing stories of amazing people who've made radical changes in their lives for something more important. Today, I'm joined by Dean Jacobs, and he has a fascinating story to tell us. So without further ado, Dean, tell us your story.
Well, hey Shay, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I like the framing of that, priority paradigm, which means that tells me that we should be engaged in the conversation in our mind and our heart with the things that really matter and what we want to create. So what a great framework for that.
Thank you.
A few years back in 2000, I was finishing up 10 years in the corporate world, doing really well, working for a company you might have heard of called Pfizer.
Oh, yeah.
And I called it, and I love my time with Pfizer, and I have a lot of gratitude, but it was also kind of the golden prison. And I was asking myself some important questions, and I was doing a lot of work. Those of us who are in the self-help industry or on that pathway of the journey usually are asking ourselves some important questions. At least I think we should be. And one of the questions I started asking myself was, well, how much stuff does one really need in order to be happy? I mean, really asking that. And then what do I need versus what do I want? And those are different distinctions. And there's nothing wrong with stuff, but the insight I got at that moment in time was, well, I'm working really hard so I can have a lot of stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Then how much stuff do you really need? I mean, is there ever enough stuff in order to get to the end of that equation? Because there's always going to be more. There's always going to be bigger. There's always going to be newer. There's always going to be advanced kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So when I got serious about answering that question, well, how much stuff do you really need in order to be happy? Then the next thing that came into my mind and my heart was, well, what do you dream about, Dean? I mean, really, what do you dream about?
Yes.
Not fantasize about. Well, I mean, I guess fantasy could be pointing in a direction, but really, really, Dean, what do you dream about? And what I dreamed about, as I've always dreamed about ever since I was a little boy in Fremont, Nebraska, was to go explore the world. Not to help increase Pfizer profits by 0.0000001%, because I mean I was very clear that I was trading my life hours and they were compensating me for those life hours because I was providing a service that was helping them meet their business goals and objectives that I was in agreement with.
Certainly.
All right, so I got it, but that wasn't fulfilling me. That wasn't giving me an extra bounce in my step. That was having me live a life where I was spending 5 days a week waiting for the 2 days of the week, the weekend, to do the things that I really love, that really matter. And I just think that we were not brought to life to pay bills and die. We were brought here to live a life of wonder, to have a life that enlivens us, that challenges us to be the best version of ourselves, to learn and to grow and to make a contribution. Now, you can do those things while you're doing the other things, but I just think, I just don't think it's an accident that I'm here. And I want to have a life that I just decided that there has to be a way to live a life in a way that I can grow, I can do the things I love to do, and make a contribution and earn a living all doing all those things. I don't think that's a fantasy. I just really decided that there's a possible way to do that. So, long story short, I quit my job and I sold my house.
Well, that's simple enough.
To follow a dream.
Sure.
And my dream was to take a trip around the world. And not just a 2-week holiday, but more of a journey to allow the essence of a place to sink in your skin so you really begin to understand what it means to live in some place like Australia or New Zealand, excuse me, or Nepal or certain parts of Africa. So this first trip I took lasted for 2 years, going through 28 countries, living on $10 to $15 a day. So, because there was 2 reasons for that. I had sold my house and I had a little pile of money from the sale of my house. The longer I make the money last, the longer my trip could be, right? It makes common sense. The other thing I intuitively knew was this, is that a tiny budget would put me in contact with the ordinary everyday people. Because I could have stayed right here in the United States and never ran out of beautiful things to see. But it's a chance to sit down, break bread, have a cup of tea with someone who has different color skin, speaks a different language, maybe worships a different God than what you do. That gives you one of the greatest chances to learn about the world and at the same time to learn about yourself. It's the magical dance that happens when we put ourselves in new and different situations. So I did that. I took that leap. Of course, people thought I was what? Crazy. Some people
Absolutely.
still do. That is okay, because I'm not following their dreams. I'm following mine. And the only way we can really get a sense of fulfillment and of joy, and that deep inner knowing that that we are not an accident, but we're here to live a life of wonder, is to live life in our terms in a way that makes sense to us, that challenges us to learn to grow, where we know that the choices that we make matter, where we put our attention, where we put our time, where we put our focus makes a difference, and that we are the ones that are responsible for generating and creating the life that we want to have. Now, we can either be victims at what the world tells us that what we need to be happy, or we can do the hard work and say, all right, this is what gives me a sense of fulfillment and joy, and make the choice and go. And of course, I leaped off that. I took a leap off the cliff, right?
Absolutely.
And I bounced a couple times. I learned how to bounce a few times. And then also in that process, I learned how to grow a pair of wings. So I could fly. And I could soar and weather whatever storms come my way. You know, it's still bouncy on occasion, because I don't know, you're probably an entrepreneur like me now. You're trying to find ways to make this all work. Because I don't want it handed it to me. I want to create something that allows me to grow into the best version of who Dean Jacobs can be, and to make the contribution that I want to make. So, did that answer your question, buddy?
Man, that is like 100% spot on the type of story that I absolutely love. It's exactly the type of thing that I think people really need to hear. You know, I really do believe that people are stuck. A lot of people just sit in that life. I love your term golden prison. I think that there are tons of people that are sitting in that place right now. So let me ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Let me take you back to those Pfizer days.
All right.
Were you miserable at Pfizer?
No, I was happy.
You were very happy. You were doing what you
I had this awesome job. I was the national dairy specialist. I used to fly all over the United States, work with the largest dairy farms in America. I love agriculture people. They're trying to feed the world. They're the salt of the earth. Just good, solid people. If you don't have integrity, if you're full of BS, if you're trying to pull something over, they smell you out a mile away, and you're done, and you're not welcome back. So you got to have integrity with that industry. I appreciate that. And I grew up poor, and I was making good money, buddy. I mean, I was living what, the original picture was like: grow up, well, get taller, or grow up, and make some money, have a good house. I had a wonderful girlfriend at the time. I was living in a house in San Diego at that point, 3,500 square foot house, just living a good life. But it wasn't, what I saw, Shay, was that I was living a life of projected expectations that I had taken on from other people, from the other paradigms, old paradigms, to go back to what you're up to, old paradigms that I wasn't sure what I wanted my paradigm to be. So I looked at these paradigms. I go, well, that's what other people are doing. And this is what I'm told I'm supposed to do in order to make me happy and to become the best version of me. So I go did it. And I was doing pretty good. Matter of fact, I was on the corporate ladder. They wanted me to come back to New York City. I went back there. New York City's awesome, but I went to the corporate office and everybody was like miserable. Like, why would I want to go back to that? Right? And so that challenged that. And then it didn't make any sense to a certain degree to other people. The only thing that made sense was in my mind and my heart, and it's that feeling. It's hard to articulate into words. There was a feeling like the only thing that makes sense for me to do was to take this trip. I didn't know at the time that would lead me to other adventures now where I've been through 58 countries. I've lived with mountain gorillas. Now I'm leading trips abroad for students to expand their perspective so they don't get trapped, what I call, into the box of fear. And I spent a lot of time in schools inspiring kids to have dreams, because dreams are not for special people, they're for everyone. And I have spoken to thousands of kids all over the United States passionately about that truth, that dreams are not for special people, they're for everyone who gives themselves permission to really think and feel what they want to do, where they want to experience, what they want to contribute, how they want to learn, and how they want to grow.
That's beautiful. I love that. So, so let's talk about your last 6 months at Pfizer. So
Okay.
you're in a position where inside you're feeling that I got to do something different.
Yeah.
What did you do kind of on an emotional level during those last 6 months as you started running up to actually turning in the resignation letter? What was going through your head? What was going through your heart during that time?
Well, man, everything. I mean, fears. Like, what am I gonna, what if I do this, and what's it gonna lead to? Where am I gonna go? If I don't do this, what am I gonna do? Geez, what if I end up on the streets? It's always like our minds are programmed to go to worst case scenarios. We don't, and this is one of the things I'm always trying to teach the kids. Like, well, what if it does work out? What if your dreams do come true? What if, I'm always like trying to put the focus back on, well, what if it does work out? Instead of all the possibilities of how it could go wrong. I'm not talking about being Pollyannish and putting your head in the sands, but like,
Right.
I'm also saying, hey, let's put some time and energy and focus on the things that that it could even turn out better than I could imagine, right? But we don't tend to go there so much because our wiring and our mechanisms, and people are that much smarter than me that understand how that all works. The frontal thing of the brain, blah blah blah. Like I don't really care. I just know that if I put my mind and I decide to put my focus on asking myself the questions, well, what if it does work out? What if I do learn? What if I do grow? What if I do live into the possibility of that dream coming true? Then what does my life look like? And how will that impact the quality of my life? So anyway, to get back to Shay, so I had to overcome a lot of doubt, fear of people's judgments.
Sure.
I had to slay a lot of internal dragons of not giving away my self-worth by allowing other people's judgments of me be more important than my belief and love for myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So who was the first person you told, if you don't mind me asking, that you were going to go on this adventure?
Probably, my brother, my dad, my family, kind of stuff.
And what was their reactions?
They're like, well, they by that time they kind of figured out that I go to my own drum, and they're like, well, okay. And by the way, I left on really good terms with Pfizer. So this is not about burning bridges either. I want to make sure that's clear out there. Matter of fact, I left on such good terms with Pfizer that when I finished that trip after 2 years, they actually called me up and said, would you like to come back now?
Nice. Very cool.
That's an acknowledgement to them, and it's also acknowledgement to me how I completed that relationship at that point in time.
Sure.
So it was my parents and friends, and some people are like, what? Are you nuts? Like, yeah, I mean, did you lose it? Do you need medication? Do you and I'm not on any meds. I'm just high on life. But, we're not brought here just to pay bills, go through the motions of life and die. We're here to make a contribution. We're here to live a life of wonder. And that's my motto with the kids. And I put it in a framework. By the way, most of my time is with elementary kids because that's my passion. We get them young, so by the time they're at our stage or beyond that, we're just building on that foundation. But we got to get the foundation right. And if we learn nothing about bad things about the world, we build walls, keep all the bad things out. That keeps all the good stuff out, traps us here. This is my metaphor with these kids. Trapped us in the box. And we're supposed to live in little boxes, and of course, they all know that, no, we're not supposed to live in a little box, right? We're supposed to, what are we supposed to do then? As I'm telling, we're supposed to stretch and blow these babies up by dreaming big, by living tall, so we can get to busy, just making the world better, all right? Dreaming big, having a picture of who we want to see, experience, do, go, try. How do we get there? By living tall. These are not empty words. Honesty, dignity, respect, kindness, caring, humility. The list goes on with all those beautiful virtues. What's the purpose of all this? It's just not to go through life, pay bills, and die, but to make the world better. So those who come after us have something to step into. And when we live that way, then we get to live a life of wonder, which is an amazement of life, an appreciation, an aliveness of life. just being grateful for what shows up, right?
That's so cool. That is so
Doesn't that make sense, buddy?
It makes absolute perfect sense to me. And, that's part of what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to find people that have done this and share those stories.
Yep.
And your story is fantastic. So you turned in that resignation letter.
Yep. By the way, I called them up. I could take you to the road in Idaho where I was. I was getting ready to drive into Dairy, and I go, I got to do this. Because if I don't do it now, if I wait like a year from now, 2 years from now, it's never going to happen. There eventually comes to a point where you say, no, time to go. Otherwise, it
churns.
It churns in your mind forever, eats you out from the inside out, and just all that does is feed the doubt, the fear, and everything else. Eventually, you got to go. But when I called them up, never guess the first thing they asked me if I wanted more what?
Money.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you want more money? No, they didn't. They didn't. My boss at that point, he didn't understand. It wasn't about money. It was about living a life that's filled with wonder. I didn't tell him at that time because I didn't have the words for it at that point in time. Sure. And it's through trusting where life was taking me and pulling me that I've been able to articulate over time to get the clarity to share with people in a way like, well, this is the magic that happens when you really trust. Doesn't mean it's easy. And I mean, there's the bounces and the bruises have been probably bigger and deeper had I not, had I stayed with the golden prison, right? But man, I wouldn't have traded. I watched the sun go down and change colors on the face of Mount Everest, climbed inside the pyramids of Egypt, lived with mountain gorillas for 7.5 months in Rwanda, have floated 3,000 miles down the Amazon on cargo ships, have rafted the Nile River. In
other words, you wish you'd have stayed with Pfizer.
Yeah.
So after you started this, so let's go right back to those first few days after you gave your notice, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long you stayed, and now you're free. You no longer have a job.
Yep.
What were you feeling? What was going through your mind?
Ooh.
What was going through your heart?
Well, the moment that I hung up the phone, it was almost like surreal. Well, it was a cell phone back then, but it felt like everything in my life that I had designed it to be up in that point in time just went spinning off without me. It was almost surreal, and scary as all get out, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, then I was left with this blank canvas, this completely blank canvas in front of me for me to become the artist of my life versus the projected expectations from old paradigms that I had taken on.
Right.
And that was the most free I'd ever felt at that point in time in my life, because I was totally. It's not about being irresponsible, by the way. I mean, I was aware that there was bills to be paid, food to be acquired, a bed to be sleeping in, and things like that. But man, I felt though I was in the driver's seat. I had the artist, the palette of colors of life in my hand for me to determine what I was going to put onto that canvas. And in that, you get that feeling of, I am the creator of what my life is to be. With the support of the divine, that's how I feel in my spiritual journey and all the different expressions of how that shows up. I mean, it's not all about me. This is how I try to explain to students sometimes, Shay, is, and then I was left with this sense that the journey became about me, but bigger than me is a chance to learn and grow.
Nice. I like that.
Fine for me, but bigger than me is a chance to learn and grow. Well, what does that mean? Every day there were new experiences that unfolded that allowed to challenge me to step into what I wanted to be or become the best version of who I chose to be. And sometimes I got there and sometimes I didn't, but it just constantly continued to unfold. And I got to experience parts of myself that would have been dormant forever had I not put myself into that situation for it to come forward. So what's the advantage of that? that means you expand your perspective. Anytime you expand your perspective, we shift our paradigm, right? You understand that. So that's why I say that. Every time we expand our perspective, we shift our paradigm, and we have a bigger, fuller version of ourselves to contribute to make the world better, right?
Absolutely. So what's changed most about you inside since you started this?
Well, what's changed most about me since I started? That's a brilliant question. Gained more humility, more appreciation, more gratitude, more more depth in my capacity for empathy, for compassion, for wisdom, for all the different expressions, how life shows up, and why it's important to have this beautiful, abundant variety of life. And we're not meant to be a monoculture of anything, but a big, beautiful, dancing bouquet of life.
Like it. So do you feel like this part of this journey has brought you, for lack of a better phrase, closer to yourself? Do you feel more in touch with your emotional core, with who you are and how to go about life?
Oh, without a doubt. Because what it's done is it's forced me to trust and take ownership and responsibility for the choices that I make, because they have a direct impact on the quality of my life and the quality of the life that the life that I touch. Repeat that question again, because there was something else that I wanted to say and I can't quite. Can you?
Yeah. So do you feel like you're more in touch with your emotional core, with how you're feeling? There's this concept we talk about, being present and being really in touch with yourself.
It has me be present, and it not only has me be present, it has taught me the value of being present. Because otherwise that lives as a concept, right? Am I present? Like, well, what the hell does that mean? No. Are you here now? Do you appreciate the abundance and the incredible expression of life and all the different forms that it shows up? Does it give you a sense of joy just to be in this dance, right? That's for me what it means to be present. And I alluded to it before. Emotionally, it has allowed me to become a bigger version of who I am. And the value of a bigger version of who I am means I have more to contribute to my community, more to contribute to my the things that I want to accomplish, more to give to the world in which that I'm a part of.
Sure, absolutely, that's awesome. All right, so this journey you've been on since you made that phone call, it's been a hell of an awesome journey. I've actually studied a little bit of it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely think it's fantastic. If you had the opportunity to go back to the young man who was taking the job at Pfizer and talk to him, 2 questions. 1, would you give him any advice? And 2, what would that advice be that you would give to that younger version of yourself?
What would I give him advice?
And would you?
I don't, I would, what would I give him advice? I would just keep telling him to trust himself, and it's not an accident that you're here. So that way I would spend less time doubting and more time being present and being engaged and trusting the process of life. As a younger version of me was insecure, which is not unusual for a lot of young people, right? Trying to find out who I want to be, what actions do I want to take, what actions are there that are true expression of who I am, and that kind of stuff. And I guess I would say trust that it's all going to work out.
Indeed, that's beautiful. That's awesome. All right, so now that's the advice you would give your younger self. What if you had an opportunity to talk to somebody who was like you, that had the good job, but had a yearning to do something else, and was at that point of, I'm trying to figure out, do I just head down this golden prison? I mean, it's comfortable. There's no doubt about it. It's comfortable. Or do I follow something else? What type of advice would you give that person?
Well, you know, I'd let them ask me whatever questions they want to ask me, first of all. So
it's an answer.
Because I don't know what it is that they need to live the life that they want to live. I mean, the truth is, I could have stayed with Pfizer, and I probably would be happy, and I wouldn't have had these other experiences, but I would have found a way to make it work. And I have a lot of honor and a lot of respect and admiration for people who are in jobs that are providing income that they can feed their family. I mean, I just so respect that. And even though they go, this may not be what I would like to do for a living or give me the most fulfillment in my life as far as living goes, it is providing so my wife and my children can have a house and food and shelter. And I just think that's honorable.
Absolutely.
And I'm not married and I have no children. So that is part of the equation. I don't know if it would have changed anything for me, because I know I'm very clear in my heart and my mind that this is the path that God has designed me to be, or to go down, kind of thing. But I've had people ask me these questions, and I've been in these conversations several times, because, I've been doing this, Shay. I did this in 2000, so I've been around for 18 years, and there's been a number of people like, how'd you do that? And how'd you do it? And I go, well, I quit my job. It's taken me a long time to figure out, like, well, I just called up and said, how? Well, I picked up the phone, I dialed the number and said, I'm leaving. But that's not really what they're asking, right?
Right. Absolutely not.
They're asking what you want, why we're having this conversation in this video. It's like, no, how did you do that? Like pull back the layers. Like, how did you get to the point where you were really, what they want to know is, how did you get to the point where you were clear that this is really what you wanted to do? And how did you find the courage to stay true to yourself? That's really what they're asking.
Yes.
Right? And those are great questions. And only, I can't tell people what to do, nor is it my job to tell people what to do. My mission is to tell them that if this is really what you want to do, that there is a way to get her done. And if you're willing to be responsible and make sure those responsibilities that you have undertaken are fulfilled, that there is a way to get it done. I have a saying, Shay, you can always find evidence for whatever you're looking for evidence for. Right. So in other words, if you want to build your case for why it's possible, then you can start to build your case for why it's possible for you to do this in a mature and beautiful and engaging, inspiring way. If you want to build your case for why this can't happen for me, then you'll build your case for it. I get this well, I have kids. People just start, when I share what I'm doing, that's why I'm sharing this in the video. People, I can already predict that there will be people who watch this video, well, I'm married, I have kids. They're already starting to build their case for why they can't be true to themselves.
Absolutely.
Because they're stuck in the old what?
Paradigm.
Bam! Mic drop. Okay, we could probably shut this thing off. But right? So what our job is to help them understand, to appreciate here and here, like, oh, we are the ones who create the paradigm where we live. And I'm here to tell you from my own life experience that, like, you can create the new paradigm for what's possible for yourself. If you're willing to do the work, but you have to be really honest, and you have to be very courageous and determined.
Yes.
And if you're willing to embrace those qualities and start to self-examine, you will find your way without causing unnecessary drama. I want to put that in there, because there's a lot of people who think, well, the only way I can do this is really completely drop the bomb and completely blow over. No, you don't have to do it that way. You can actually build shift that paradigm in a way that it doesn't cause, there might be drama, but not unnecessary drama.
Right.
Certain drama, which is challenges that allow it to learn and grow, versus unnecessary dramas where we're just like causing stress, unnecessary stress and chaos that doesn't serve us. Right.
And yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a lot of things here. I'm going to ask the cliche question.
Okay.
What's the most important thing in life?
Ooh, man. For me,
Sure.
living it to the best, fullest capacity that I can to make the biggest contribution in a way that allows others to step into a sense of there's something magical waiting for them in life if they're willing to be engaged with it. I mean, in other words, staying true to myself, right?
Love
And
that.
I know them, and I'm aware that I'm a role model for thousands of kids who look at me, not Dean Jacobs, but like look at me, oh, he did these things, because I'm always challenging, and I'm always telling them, and not only am I telling them, and I share with them in a way where they feel that it's possible. For example, I've been spending some time on an Indian reservation here in Nebraska. You can imagine the dynamic of that, right? Or the paradigm that they're living in, which is right. And I'm working with the state of Nebraska, the Commissioner of Education. I got their endorsement and support to send me up there, not just for one visit, because one and done's doesn't work for that dynamic where it's a trauma community. I went up there for 9 times. I have multiple programs I do in schools, and it's about, because I floated all these adventures I was telling you about, Shay. They're different trips. First one lasted 2 years, one lasted 6 months, one was 10 months, one was 7 months, one was another 6 months, and then multiple, and then lots of smaller trips too.
Sure.
So I have lots and lots of content to share. But I started to shift. I share this with you because we started to shift the paradigm, and it's the paradigm shift of what they feel is possible for themselves that then gives them permission to start to take different actions for the life they want to create. If you don't shift the paradigm, I'm preaching the choir here, but if you don't shift the paradigm, then our actions remain the same, and we're getting more the same, even though we want something different because we haven't shifted the paradigm of what we feel is possible. Right. So anyway, I interviewed some of these kids afterwards when I was done, and I'll never, Nina, I interviewed her. She's in 3rd grade. This beautiful, articulate young girl. And I go, oh, here's what I want you to ask, Nina, is like, answer this question. What's your favorite part about having me, or what's your favorite part about having Dean Jacobs visit your school? And she answered with this. She goes, well, my favorite part of having Dean Jacobs come to my school is, well, my favorite part. And then she goes, well, I want to be a gymnast. And my grandma keeps telling me that I'm not good enough to be a gymnast. But when Dean Jacobs comes to our school, I feel like I can be a gymnast.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. So what are we doing? We're helping her shift her paradigm of what she feels is possible for herself, giving her a sense of hope, right?
Right.
And if we can shift that paradigm into giving them a sense of hope, they're going to take different actions. Not always, but start to take some different actions. And if we can start to help shift those actions in a way that are consistent with believing in their future, having hope for what's possible for themselves, we change the outcome of their journey. And not only do we change the outcome of their journey, we change the outcome of everybody whose lives that they touch as a result of those different choices that they make. And that's how we get on with making the world better. That's how we shift and that's how we change the world. It becomes one person at a time, and then it ripples into all those different other paradigms that get shook up because someone comes in and says, no, there's something else possible.
Absolutely. Man, that is an awesome story.
Thank you.
For touching her like that and all the kids that you've come and talked with. Okay, so I've got to ask this because of my own personal love of wandering into the wild. Mm-hmm. Give me your best adventure story. Short version.
Oh boy, man, I got so many of them.
I know. I knew this would be hard, but do you have a favorite?
Different adventures teach us different lessons.
Oh.
And they allow us to discover parts of ourselves that are dormant, or qualities in ourselves that otherwise, or new paradigms that are waiting to present themselves that are just an idea until you're faced with situations that have them come forward. So I'll tell you a recent one. Last December, I was paddling a river deep in the Amazon rainforest that nobody from North America had ever floated before. This is one of the tributaries that goes into the Amazon. But now remember, that sounds kind of cool, but the rain basin in the Amazon is the same size as the 48 states. So there's going to be rivers that people from North America have never floated on. But I was clear about this because I talked to some of the indigenous people, and they go, yeah, you're the first white dude to ever come this way. And I brought in an inflatable kayak, and I was kayaking this with a guy who worked for WWF, World Wildlife Fund in Ecuador, Juan Carlos. He's my friend, Juan Carlos Garcia. So we're going down this river. And by the way, I don't know how to swim.
Oh,
yeah, I know. And I floated, I canoed the Mississippi from beginning to end, from Lake Itasca to the Gulf of Mexico, whitewater raft the Nile, blah, blah, blah. But as I'm always telling the kids, on the other side of that wall of fear, there's a whole world waiting to be explored. We let that wall of fear stop us, traps us back where? Into the box. And so one of the first principles I'm always teaching these kids is we never let fear stop us. And I have them write it down. We say it. We never let fear stop us. Am I afraid? Yes. Do I do it anyway? You betcha. Because that's on the outside of that box is where all the magic is waiting to be experienced, right? And enjoyed and, well, sometimes not enjoyed, but, some to be experienced. Right. So anyway, we're going down this river. And a year and a half ago, there were some major earthquakes in Ecuador. I don't remember if you remember that. On the coast, there were some big ones. And but in the rainforest where nobody lives, nobody knew what was going on there. Well, complete sides of mountains came down and filled the rivers with debris, with trees and stuff like that.
Sure.
So the rivers were completely blocked. And they're still blocked. The water's still finding a way, but the whole riverway is completely blocked with trees and stuff. And we're coming to this thing like, oh, man. So there was a tree branch sticking up, and my kayak came in and got wedged against this tree. And then it went sideways, and it started to fill up. And Juan Carlos jumped out, and he swam downstream to this big pile of trees, leaving me there in the middle of the river. And I made a big mistake that day. I forgot to put my life jacket on.
Oh, no.
Right, huh? So, thankfully, underneath this branch was the big trunk, but it was underwater and was waist deep. So I stepped out, and I'm standing on this tree, and the water's smashing against me and this kayak. Well, I ain't gonna leave my $1,000 kayak because I'm just not gonna do that. So I'm pushing my kayak off this push, and even though it's filled up with water, eventually, poof, it goes over the branch, goes down. So there I am, hanging onto this branch.
Without your life jacket.
With no life jacket, and nobody's going to come get me.
Right, yeah.
Because there's nobody to come get me. They're all downstream, and it's impossible for them to even come up and get me. So I did what I'm always teaching the kids to do. I go, all right, breathe in, breathe out. I'm doing the whole breathing exercise that I teach you, because an oxygenated brain has more clarity, right?
Yep.
So I'm breathing, breathe in, breathe out. And then I went through my principles. We never let fear stop me. I say it out loud. I'm just thinking in my head. I'm saying it out loud because I'm like, oh boy, this is bad, right? And then the next thing I teach them is make sure and they always write this down, my dreams are bigger than my fears. In other words, make sure that you're always focused on the things that matter, that inspire us not to be trapped there.
Box. Yep.
And then the last one, because there's three main ones that I teach them. And there's always more, but these are like three foundational ones that I think serve them. And that is this. And I said out loud to myself, I believe in my ability to figure things out. Because if you don't tell yourself that, you panic, and then what happens? We freeze, right?
Yeah.
Then we freeze into inaction.
Yeah.
So I did the breathe in, breathe out, and then I repeat. I said those things out like that. And then I took another deep breath in. I go, well, and I breathe out. I go, there's nobody coming to get me. I got to do my best to get from where I'm at to where they are way downstream. So I took a breathe in, and I jumped off. And I'm going out. I'm doing okay. This is all right. Until I started to get tired.
Oh, no.
Because I got my clothes on.
Yeah.
And I'm good, and but the current's pretty strong, so it's carrying me downstream until eventually I'm getting pretty close where they're waiting for me on this pile of trees, and about 10 yards before I'm getting there, I'm starting to go down.
Oh, no.
And just a couple more strokes. I'm going down, and I reach up. And right when I'm going down, like, I'm out of giddy up. They grab me by the hand. Poof.
Hey!
They pull me out. And the Juan Carlos goes, "You okay?" And I go, "Well, that was interesting."
Awesome.
That was stupid. I mean, I should have my life jacket on if I'm going to do that kind of stuff. But I was a little concerned that the reason why I didn't have my life jacket on, the thought process was like, wow, I knew there was debris and tree, and I just didn't want to get a life jacket's not going to help you actually. If you get caught underneath a tree or something like that, or it could actually be a detriment because it could hang you up. So, I mean, that was kind of what my mental process was a little bit, but that's the latest adventure in Dean Jacobs. And I need to take swim. It's not like I swim. It's not like I can completely not swim. I could do 1/2 lap. And after that, I can't go any further. I don't really call that swimming. I call that floating for a little while and then sinking.
It's directional floating.
Yeah, thank you. Directional floating. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. That's a perfect place for us to start wrapping up here.
Okay.
I really appreciate all of your time today and all of the stories you've shared with us. If people want to know more about you or get in contact with you, what are the best means or methods to do that?
My website is really the best way because on my website has my contact information. It's got my phone number. It's not like that's a big secret, but if it changed, it would be changed on my website. Okay. But my website's really easy. It's Dean, DEAN Jacobs, JACOBS.org, DeanJacobs.org. Or if you just Google Dean Jacobs, I'm the first thing that comes up that's not a paid advertisement. So.
Okay, very good. Perfect. Well, I always wrap up with one question.
Okay.
And that question is, I know a chunk of your story, but oftentimes I don't know everything. So the question is, what question should I have asked you?
What question? I don't know. You asked a lot of good questions, Shay. I mean,
I'm always good for taking a win.
Yeah. Well, we could, I could tell these stories for days and years.
And do, which is awesome.
Yeah, and transform them into teachable moments. Here's a good question.
Okay.
I get this question a lot. Okay. And the kids, we'll end it on this. And this is a good place to end it because I finally have a new answer for the question.
Oh, okay, great.
Been getting for years. And the question is, where's your favorite place that you have ever been?
Ah, great.
Because I always want to know, like, where's your favorite place you've ever been? And I got to get my journal because I just wrote down the answer to this question.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because this just came in a week ago. And you know how a little divine download. And I always like the question, and I get where they're coming from because, everyone thinks you have a favorite place
right
that you've gone to. And the truth is, I don't have a favorite place because, everywhere I go, there's amazing people and experiences and new things to challenge myself. There are places that I'd like to go back to, like Sudan and Ethiopia and Nepal and Indonesia. And then there's, of course, places I want to go to that I haven't been to yet, and like Antarctica and Bhutan and Burma and a few places in Japan. I haven't even been to Japan. But here's the best answer.
All right, what's your favorite place?
Where's my favorite place? I try to make wherever I am my most favorite place to be.
That's a beautiful answer. I love that.
And it's true. I try to make wherever I am my most favorite place to be.
And it's probably
who's responsible for creating the paradigm of where I am and who I want to be in that moment of time, as we're always responsible for every moment of who we are. So I try to make wherever I am my most favorite place to be.
Perfect. I love that answer. That is an absolutely perfect place to wrap up too. Dean, thank you so much for all of your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for what you're doing, Jay. It's important. And I appreciate your interest in my story. But it's important to for people like you to find these stories and make them available for people, to give us inspiration, to give us hope that it is possible to stay true to who we want to be. It is possible to create the paradigms that support us and living a life that matters, of living a life of wonder. And I look for stories like this. I look for other people who are doing things to inspire me, to help fuel me to continue my mission, because it's so easy to get caught up in the negative narrative. And the negative narrative takes our oxygen out of our curiosity and our capacity to be engaged and make a difference in the world, and leaves us trapped here. It's so, and I'm really finely tuned, aware of it, and I still get caught in it sometimes.
Oh man, that is so cool that you've shared that. I think that's awesome that it's not a magic switch when you change your life. You still have to continue to push, to put effort in, to be determined, to be courageous.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And, next time, wear the life jacket, will you?
Deal. I agree to that request.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you shared with us today.
My pleasure.